everyone. I'm Maritza Barone and welcome to my podcast, Things You Can't Unhear. As a presenter with a focus on wellness, I have interviewed very many health professionals in my time and heard stories that have opened my eyes about the world we live in today. But I found the best bits that I take home with me and the things I heard that have changed my life are usually when the recording shuts off and we can talk in length behind the scenes. And that's the information that I want to share with you on this podcast. Today we're going to explore and discuss food and nutrition as it's so important in our lives and our well-being. And I have Shelly McKenzie with me, who's a nutritionist and soon-to-be naturopath, with a mission to empower you to restore balance in your body and life. Shelly is a founder of Freedom Wellness Nutrition Practice based in Melbourne, Australia, where she uses the power of food with clients to help heal and allow the body to thrive naturally on its own. Hi, Shelly. Thank you for being here in the studio with me today.
Hi, thanks for having me, Maritza.
Now, in the past, people have used food as medicine, and it's such a powerful topic. How has it worked for you, and what's your personal journey with nutrition?
Yeah, sure. So I guess it all began when I was 24 and I'm from the country originally, 3 hours from Melbourne, and I was driving home to go stay with my parents and I started feeling really achy throughout my whole body. So I booked in to get a massage, and when I had that massage, I felt great, but I just went to bed. I was really sore and tired and thought, oh, that's obviously released something in my body. By the next day, I actually couldn't move. So I literally could not get out of bed, and I had to call my parents on their landline and ask my dad to come and pick me up out of bed and take me to the lounge room. And really from there, my health just spiraled very quickly. So over a 4-week period, my health just got worse and worse. I was unable to move just purely because I was so weak. I couldn't keep any food down. I was in and out of doctors constantly trying to work out what was going on. I'd lost 15 kilos, which I didn't have to lose within that 4 weeks. And it got to the point where I was on 24-hour supervision. So being in a country town, we didn't have a big hospital. So between my parents and my boyfriend at the time, now husband, had to look after me for a 4-week period just until we discovered what had actually happened. So it was quite scary. It's all a bit of a blur for me, that 4 weeks, just because I was so sick. But for my parents, it was really scary because my diagnosis went from, she's got cancer to she's brought a parasite back from when she's traveling. So there was a really big sort of
question mark on top of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And eventually they came to the diagnosis of a thyroid disorder called Hashimoto's, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard from about like nowadays. But basically the body suspects that there's an invader and it thinks that your thyroid's actually a foreign invader in the body. And so the immune system starts to attack itself and it is attacking the thyroid. So I was diagnosed with that, and from there I was given a bag full of pills from the doctor because my hubby and I were traveling to India. We were riding a motorbike for 6 weeks down the coastline, and this was happening, 3 weeks after the diagnosis.
Wow, okay.
So, I was still quite sick and obviously advised not to go, but being the determined human I am, I decided I'm going. So the doctors gave me this bag full of pills that would last me, until I got home, and they said every single day for the rest of your life you will take one of these pills. And for me, being 24 years old, taking a pill every day for my life,
it's pretty
and that was going to control everything, how I felt, just everything. So it didn't sit well with me. And so I decided when I was in India to start playing around with my food. I wasn't living my best life as a 24-year-old. I was drinking a lot. I was indulging in the partying lifestyle of Melbourne. And so I knew that there was a lot of room for me to move within my diet and my lifestyle. And I had the medication there. So if I needed it, I could always fall back on that, which is really important because not everyone, I believe that there's a time and place for Western medicine. But in my case, I just knew down to my roots that there was something I could do, and that was through diet and nutrition. So, I started playing around with my diet.
How did you turn it around?
So at the start, I just started listening in, like tuning in to what my body was saying. So the first things, I got rid of gluten, dairy, sugar and alcohol. And I guess now knowing what I know about food, they were all triggering inflammation in my body, and the thyroid disease is very much around inflammation. So they were causing me a lot of havoc. So I cut those things out first, and then I went on a vegan diet for 6 months, which I started when we were traveling through India. So, lots of beautiful vegetarian curries, spices. I found that really healing. At about 6 months though of being vegan, I didn't really know what I was doing with food. I was just playing, but I started getting really fatigued, digestive upsets. So I knew it was time to start bringing in some meat again. And so then I went to more of, I guess, a paleo type diet. So I was bringing in some meat and some really good fats and things like that. And I started thriving again. I stayed off alcohol for a 2-year period, and still to this day I'm off gluten, because now we know that gluten actually attacks the thyroid. Okay. But dairy, funnily enough, the intolerance has gone since I've been pregnant, so I've been loving my dairy again.
It's funny. It's you almost need to give your body a break sometimes from these certain elements in our diet, and then allow it to restore, and then come back to health.
Yeah,
and you've obviously done that so well, and now you lead a career in nutrition, which is pretty impressive. And you wonder sometimes the things that give us a kick up the butt to start these certain things, and it looked like a negative at the time, I'm sure, for you being so unwell, but now it's taken you into this amazing career that you've got, and you're sharing all of your knowledge with so many of your clients. Now, you've got your own little area in Port Melbourne in Victoria in Australia. Tell us about who you see there and how you help them.
Yeah, so majority of my clients are female-based. So I deal with a lot of hormonal issues, so, things like PCOS, endometriosis, coming off the pill, those sorts of things. Also helping women get their bodies ready for fertility.
And that's all through nutrition?
Yeah, all through nutrition. If we need to use supplements, we will. However, I guess just through my journey and seeing that power of food, I just think if we need to get our diet right first, no matter what, whether we're dealing with disease in the body, an actual disease, or, if it's just something like losing a couple of kilos, if the diet's not right, our body just doesn't thrive. So there's no point throwing herbs and supplements and medication at it. It's food first all the way. So, yeah.
Do you tend to use your method of elimination first with most of your clients, how you did with yourself?
Not necessarily. It depends. If they're coming in for digestive issues, which is the other side, so I also have a lot of digestive issues and clients that I see. So often they'll need to be in elimination phase, but it is very important to know that food intolerances don't last forever. So
and refreshing to know, right?
Yeah, exactly. So once we've healed and we've restored the body, then we can start trying to bring foods back in. So that's important to know, because a lot of people go on diets such as FODMAPs and things like that, and they'll be on it for years when really it should have been a 6 to 8 week diet, and just to see. So yes, for some clients we will go through an elimination phase, but definitely not with everyone.
Okay. So I think also our relationship to food is really important, and no matter what you learn and no matter what you know about what food's going to make you thrive and what food isn't, sometimes when emotions come into play, that can just go out the window really quickly. How do you control this, and how do you educate your clients to have a bit more structure when it comes to emotionally eating?
Yeah, for sure. So this is a big one, and almost all clients struggle with this. Like a lot of people, and particularly women, do. And
especially when it comes to hormones as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hormones, stresses in our life, all of those sorts of things. So I practice the 80-20 method, which, again, a lot of people have heard about but not necessarily know how to implement. So we 80% of the time are nourishing our body, and 20% of the time we're having our soul food. So that's what our heart and body desires, and that just helps keep that really nice balance, and we're not restricting. So, you're still able to eat chocolate or have a glass of wine or whatever you like, but we just, use it in a 20% method. So I'm often getting clients to structure out their week, particularly in the beginning when they're first starting the 80-20. So if they know that they've got a stressful day and they might be reaching for the wine, or if they know that they've got a birthday on the weekend or going out with the girls, then we're structuring that as our 20% so that we can have, I guess it's just forming that mindset around, and it helps to start eliminating.
It's so true, because when you are trying to live a clean and healthy lifestyle, your social life tends to just plummet a little bit because catching up with friends who you usually have a wine with is tempting to say no. And then going out for dinner, you sort of have to make sure you're choosing the right options on the menu. So it can be difficult, but it's a lifestyle change really, isn't it? Is really implementing a clean diet, but having that 20%, and I love that you call it soul food rather than junk food or, something
bad versus
for you.
good.
Exactly.
Even that people often use bad versus good food, and really food's food. It's there to be enjoyed. It's there to, give us that connectedness with people, to help us thrive. But yeah, we just need to it's our mentality, and like using terms like dieting or cheat day or cheat meal, like these things really do set us up for, I don't want to say failure, but it's that mindset. We're always going to drop back into that almost binge like or stress eating if you like, because it's a cheat meal, right? So in our mind, we're like, go for gun, like go eat it all.
Yeah, you don't want to feel bad about your, 20% of soul food either. You want to feel really good about eating it.
Yeah.
And, this is my 20% of time where I'm eating the thing or drinking the thing that I really am craving. And 80% of the time I know I'm being really nurturing to my body and nourishing to my body. Now, I'm concerned that food isn't the same as it was 20 plus years ago. And I feel like there's so many more preservatives and more chemicals sprayed on our fruit and vegetables. And I know major supermarkets only have like a small corner of an organic fruit and veg section. So what would you say the first step would be to, trying to start an organic lifestyle with food?
Yeah, so definitely use farmers markets. Depending on where you live is obviously going to depend on how often they run, but at least once a month, in almost every, even small country towns and things, you'll find a farmers market. And if you're storing your vegetables correctly and, in sealed containers and things like that, they'll last a lot longer. So find your farmers markets, because you will get beautiful, freshly picked, sometimes that day, fruits and vegetables at a really low cost. So definitely going for your farmers markets is a good place to start. Yeah. And the other thing, try not to overthink food too much. So if we're thinking about where it's come from, and it can start getting quite stressful and do more harm than good, particularly if you don't have the resources and the availability to fresh produce all the time. So, yeah, try not to stress too much about it. And I highly recommend starting with the Dirty Dozen. So they are our highest sprayed fruits and vegetables. So if you Google Dirty Dozen, it'll give you your top vegetables, and then there's Clean 15 on the other side of that. So your Clean 15 are okay, just picking up from the supermarket, because they're not sprayed, so, or not much anyway. So
they're things with a thick skin, like a banana that you could peel.
Avocado, things like that. So they're okay, just get in from the supermarket. So try to just focus on your Dirty Dozen and going organic for that initially.
That's a great tip. So when we're going through the aisles of the supermarket and we're picking up packets of things, how do we read them, and how do we know that they are good for us versus not so much? Because I know marketing can be very, deceiving these days, especially on kids' food packets. It's pretty amazing when you figure out and you really delve into what's going on the side of the packet.
Yeah.
What are your tips? How do you read those instructions?
Yeah, so the marketing is, they're getting cleverer and cleverer with that. Like, even there's a new 5-star rating. Highly recommend.
Do we trust that?
No.
Oh.
Nah, no, don't trust it.
That's a bit sad.
Yeah.
Been trusting that.
No. So the best thing to do when reading a food label is always comparing. If you're looking at the nutritional panel, always compare the per 100 grams, because if we're looking at the per serving, companies can actually, they make that up themselves. So often they will make that serving size, smaller to look better against their competitors. So their sugar might come in under what it actually is. But if we were to look at the per 100 gram against, say, two brands, a competitor, you'll find that the sugar might actually be higher even though their serving size was smaller. So always be comparing at the per 100 gram. The other thing is just less ingredients is best. So, just try to go for packaged food with 10 or less ingredients is a really good place to start. And then looking at all of your chemicals and preservatives. So we want something with ideally no numbers, but if there is some numbers, you just want to make sure that there's very few. And there's a great app called Chemical Maze where you can actually put the number that you see on the packet into this app and it'll tell you where that's derived from, and you'll be surprised at how much is derived from petroleum, so petrol.
Wow, that's
that we're actually
a good
eating.
tip because I've heard the numbers so many times and then you get to the supermarket and you're like, what were those numbers again?
Yeah.
I can't remember. So to have that app handy on my phone right there.
Right there. And it's awesome. It gives you a little like red miserable face or a little green smiley face. So not every number is going to be harmful, but there's certainly some that derive from all sorts of things that we want to stay away from. So having that app is great. I think it also comes in a little pocket book as well.
What was the name of it again?
It's called Chemical Maze.
Okay, I'm definitely downloading that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. So now I'm a strong believer that every body is different and one thing doesn't suit the other. And just yesterday I met someone who told me that she tried intermittent fasting and her health went into a downward spiral really quickly, and she learned that she had to eat every 3 hours. And then myself, I do intermittent fasting and I thrive with it. So our bodies are very different. How do we work out what suits us?
So we listen in. Basically. And you're right, there's so many different diets and, not everyone's going to thrive. It depends on what's going on. And so we really need to tune into what's actually happening. We all have whispers and screams. Some of us have more than others, but they are there 100%. So it's starting with, even listening into things. For example, if I have rice at lunchtime, I will need a nap an hour later. So rice for me isn't great during the day, but at nighttime it's fine because I'm going to bed anyway.
Okay.
Whereas some other people might thrive on having rice at lunchtime. It might give them the energy they need. So it's even listening to things like this. It's listening to our digestive complaints. We get in bloating, cramping, gassiness, reflux. Is our energy going up or down? Listening to all these things is really important. And I often will tell clients to keep a journal. So whether that be in their phone or just carrying around a little notepad. And when they're eating foods, just trying to write down what you've just eaten and then the food. And eventually we can start to see a common link. And that might take a week or two of writing down each meal, and it can be a little bit tedious, but that's definitely one of the best ways to start working out what's happening to you. And during this time you can be experimenting, and God, I've experimented with every diet, and you can do this, but you will start to know what thrives. It's very important to listen in and not just go off what your girlfriend said or what you're seeing on social media, because there's a lot out there and it can become really confusing.
Oh, there are so many diets out there. But how is testing done with nutritionists?
So there's certain ways. I will always refer onwards for pretty much all testing. So as a nutritionist, we don't do a lot. We work a lot off just blood work from a GP. However, you can do breath tests with specialists to help work out any food intolerances. The thing to know with that is you need to actually be eating the food often for it to come up in an intolerance test. So often when people are, going in for a celiac or a gluten test, they almost always know that gluten's already triggering them, and so often have cut a lot of that out. But for that to show in the test, you need to be consuming it. So that can be a really painful time for people. But it is very important to get the correct diagnosis. So, and then it really does depend on what you've got going on. But generally speaking, a nutritionist will refer on. Naturopaths will do a little bit more testing in practice. I do gut testing and DNA testing if clients want to do that. But
how is that done?
Yeah, so that's done through stool or blood work as well. So that's sort of the only testing I'll do. And I don't do it with everyone, but some people do really like to have their testings done.
Makes sense. All right, so tell us about some of the workshops that you've been running as well recently.
Yeah, so I have 6 workshops on actually before baby arrives. So it's a busy time. But I guess for me, just educating as many people as I can is really important. And so a lot of the workshops I've been running are around Melbourne, and they're all based around taking out the confusion of new like food, so the dieting stigmas, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm just trying to strip back nutrition to its bare bones and its basics, teach people how to build their ideal plate, tune into their body, listen in. We talk a lot about that 80-20 sort of method and how to implement that. And we also talk a lot about habits, because I think if our habits aren't right, we have hundreds of habits in our day, and we'll have some that propel us forward to good health and we'll have some that hinder us. And so we talk a lot about habits, because this is where, that dieting culture comes in again. We might be on a diet for 6 weeks and going really well, but we haven't actually created new habits to make that stick long term. And so then eventually, I don't want to say fall off the bandwagon, but as that challenge or whatever it is, or that diet gets further into the distance, we start to forget what we did and we go back to old habits. And so, we chat a lot about habits as well, and just how to move forward and start to implement, I guess, the good habits, so it does become a lifestyle and not a diet.
It's so true. I recently went to a health retreat for a weekend and learnt so much amazing information. And when you're there, you're like, I am doing this all the time. And then slowly it starts to drop off. So you need these constant reminders to just go, get back on track. This is forever. This is not just for a weekend. We want to live healthily and happily for a very long time, and this is the way to do it. Food is actually medicine.
It is.
So it is a very powerful tool. What would you say to people to do to take that first step to cleaning up their
diet?
Their diet,
Yeah. I guess looking at the habit side of things. So
clear out your pantry, perhaps.
Yeah, that's always a good one. So keeping your house a safe place and your workspace as well. So if you know that going for the chocolate at 3 p.m. is a little bit of a problem for you, then perhaps keeping that space, I like to call it safe place, so we don't have chocolate in the drawer. And you actually have to physically go out and buy it. And, you might do that, but I can guarantee 99% of the time you won't actually go and buy that chocolate. So keeping your house and your workspace safe is very important. And then, trying to determine what habits are hindering you. So again, you might write down some little habits, or you might know off the top of your head, every night when you sit down to watch TV, do you reach for the chocolate bar, or do you have to have something sweet, or 3 p.m. you're looking for that energy hit? And what else can we be doing at that time rather than going for those habits that are perhaps hindering us? So
why do we need that sugar hit after we eat or at 3 p.m.? What is that? Is it just an energy boost that we are seeking?
It's that, boredom and stress are sort of the three biggest things around that, I think. And so there's a couple of ways to help with that. If it's after dinner, brushing your teeth, the mint or whatever flavour your toothpaste is will often set off that craving.
Great tip.
Or have, a bitter tea, because again, you're going to offset that craving. So that's something. And, and then at least if you're having a cup of tea, a bitter tea, like a chamomile tea or dandelion tea or something like that, you're also got something in your mouth and in your hand. So you're distracting yourself.
Busy, right?
Yeah, particularly if it is boredom.
Yeah.
And then if you're at work and you can't just go and brush your teeth, get up off your desk, walk, go and grab a glass of water, chat to a work colleague, because more often than not, that will go.
Yeah.
It wasn't a true craving. And true cravings are very important, because they can be telling our body, something that we may need. For instance, if you're craving coffee, you might actually be needing iron. Or if you're craving chocolate, you might actually be needing magnesium. But if you can get past that initial craving, then we know that was actually a habit. It was from a place of boredom, a place of stress, whatever it may be, and it wasn't a true craving.
Guilty stress eater over here. And I eat really quickly when I'm stressed too. And I was like, where did that go?
I need more now.
Could have taken a bit longer to eat that. Well, thank you, Shelly, for sharing such insight and kicking us into gear to start using food properly and with so much power.
Thanks, Maritza.
To follow Shelly, go over to her website, freedomwellness.com.au. She's even got her own podcast where you can learn much more about nutrition, and you can just follow the links on her website. And I just love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to contact me and let me know what you thought of this episode, or perhaps be part of the next show and share your well-being story or life vision, you can get in touch at Maritza_Barone on Instagram. Be happy, be healthy, be grateful, and thrive.